There's an awful lot of people I notice right now saying how they're true MAGA and they're pure MAGA. I don't think anybody at Fox can possibly be true MAGA and hardcore MAGA. And the reason is, to be brutally frank, when President Trump had the election stolen from him, and had the White House taken away because everybody at Fox takes a paycheck from Murdoch. You all supported DeSantis and Nikki Haley and whoever else came along, right, as a opportunity to replace President Trump. So if you work at Fox, by definition, you can't be true MAGA. It's impossible.
Well, as Cenk said, they're all full of crap. The Republican Civil War has reached the point where right-wingers are now attacking Fox News. On multiple occasions this week, Steve Bannon called out the conservative network and even went so far as to claim that if you work there, you can't be true MAGA. Here's another moment from just a few days ago.
I don't want to hear, we got American troops in Iraq. Why we got American troops in Iraq? Because Fox News and all of them and Bush lied to us. Lied. It wasn't a failure of intelligence or we made some bad calculations. It was bald-faced lies.
So we're gonna go a little bit deeper into the war within Trump's base. But first, Cenk, we've seen hints of this in the past where they would attack Fox News or just things that were said on Fox News, certain anchors or whatever, different hosts, but we've never really seen anything quite to this extent. So are you surprised that we're seeing them completely just turn their backs on Fox News? Because it's almost like, where are they gonna get their news from?
Yeah, well, that's the state of affairs now that is so interesting. They are not getting their news from Fox News as much as they used to. Now, there's tons of people still watch Fox News, and that's why people online refer to like boomer neocons that got brainwashed by Fox News. Because where I disagree with Steve Bannon on a ton of things, including that the 2020 election was stolen. No, it wasn't, okay? So there's plenty to disagree because we're on different sides. That's why I don't agree with Steve Bannon on that. But he's now telling his audience the truth about Fox News. It's because they're now political opponents, right? Bannon doesn't want to go into Iran, and Fox News definitely wants to start another war. But in the midst of this fight, they're beginning to spill the tea about each other. And Bannon is absolutely correct that Fox News lied us into Iraq war. One of the top people who did that was Sean Hannity. So you're gonna see here, they're in open warfare against each other. So Tucker Carlson also hit Sean Hannity saying, along similar lines, you guys have started wars before, you wanna start wars now. And so I love that they're in open revolt, and I think that you have to give credit where credit is due. Not that they're right about everything, guys. Just agreeing on one thing or giving one piece of credit honestly does not mean you agree with everything they say. Please, please. This is not that hard to figure out, okay? But on this, can you agree with Steve Bannon that Fox News lied right-wingers into the war with Iraq? Of course they did, of course that's true. And are they trying to lie them into the war in Iran? Absolutely. Rupert Murdoch is the biggest warmonger of my lifetime. There isn't a war that he hasn't wanted to snuggle with and make out with and push onto the American people and make us fight it, make us pay for it. So the fact that they're taking on Murdoch and Fox News is awesome news. And yes, you're gonna see it in the comments that she's gonna read for you guys from other MAGA, etc. It's in the beginning, they don't want to take on Daddy Trump because they're worried that everybody on their side likes Trump. And strategically, they're not wrong from their point of view on their side because they're trying to win Trump over to their side. And if they insult him even a tiny bit, you know how thin-skinned he is. Oh no, they hurt my feelings. I'm going with the neocons, right? Yeah, he'll do that until his polling's in the 20s. Anyways, so that's why instead of directly attacking Trump, they're attacking one another and they're attacking Fox News and they're going to war internally and trying to win Trump over to their side.
Yeah, it all feels very passive aggressive and a strange way for them to achieve whatever goals they're actually after. I also love that you mentioned the war in Iraq, but let me not get too far ahead of myself. Let me get to the story first. Then we'll get to that. So in addition to attacking Fox News, Steve Bannon is putting out a dire warning. In an interview with Tucker Carlson, he and Tucker were careful to put most of the blame for Trump's foreign policy decisions on the war hawks surrounding him rather than Trump himself. But they did say that getting involved in another foreign war would break up Trump's coalition. Take a look.
Donald J. Trump gets elected in November on the back of this amazing coalition, unprecedented coalition. But this coalition, which you described earlier and more precisely than anybody by far, is the defining fact of American politics. And it kind of feels like it's being blown up over this war in Iran.
And I'm a big supporter of Israel.
Yes.
And I'm telling people, hey, if we get sucked into this war, which inexorably looks like it's going to happen on the combat side, it's going to not just blow up the coalition, it's also going to thwart what we're doing with the most important thing, which is the deportation of the illegal alien invaders that are here.
Well, Donald Trump, for his part, as you can imagine, is not too happy that his former friend and ally Tucker Carlson is calling him out publicly. So here's how Trump responded to a reporter's question about Tucker yesterday.
What was the response to Tucker Carlson criticizing you, saying that you were complicit in the war?
I don't know what Tucker Carlson is saying. Let him go get a television network and say it so that people listen.
And quickly, have you spoken?
And on Truth Social last night, he posted this: somebody please explain to kooky Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. But you might be surprised at who took Tucker's side in this fight. Marjorie Taylor Greene, typically one of the biggest Trump bootlickers there is, responded to Trump on X. She had a lot to say. She said, Tucker Carlson is one of my favorite people. He fiercely loves his wife, children, and our country. Since being fired by the neocon network Fox News, he has more popularity and viewers than ever before. He unapologetically believes the same things I do, that if we don't fight for our country and our own people, then we will no longer have a country for our children and our grandchildren. And foreign wars, intervention, regime change, put America last, kill innocent people, are making us broke and will ultimately lead to our destruction. That's not kooky. That's what millions of Americans voted for. It's what we believe is America first. So Candace Owens responded to Trump's attack on Tucker with this. She said, Donald Trump just completely fractured his base, and he did it for the very neocons who minted the Never Trump movement. Truly unbelievable. And of course, Alex Jones backed him up, saying, I am proud that Tucker Carlson is standing his ground against the psychotic warmongering neocons that have brought the world to the verge of thermal nuclear Armageddon. So what we're witnessing here is imperialism, and Israel is simply following the American example, which is, I think, what you were alluding to earlier, Cenk. You know, like this reeks of 9/11 and the post 9/11 era and the war in Iraq, when we invaded a country that had nothing to do with 9/11, citing weapons of mass destruction that we never found, calling it a preemptive strike against them, which is literally what's happening right now with Israel and Iran. And a significant portion of the American people supported it at the time because honestly, we didn't know any better. And I know that's a bit of an oversimplification of the mood of that time, but it's essentially what it boiled down to. And the Israelis, who see themselves still as victims in all of this, according to reports at least, they support what their government is doing in Iran. Meanwhile, Netanyahu is making an absolute fool out of Donald Trump, which would be hilarious if it wasn't actually so dangerous and deadly. But Americans do not want to get involved with any of this. That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene was referencing. This is not what Trump voters actually voted for. They voted for a no war president. So seeing him on the verge of engaging in Iran is very troubling for a lot of them, and it should be. And seeing these debates happening within right-wing media is sort of encouraging because we're so used to Fox News viewers only ever getting one side of a story or only getting like the Trump approved perspective or the messaging. It would be nice if these conversations actually had some bearing on the administration and the way that it proceeds. But Trump, honestly, like he's just gonna do whatever makes him look and feel the most powerful. So what do you think, Cenk?
Yeah, in the first hour, I explained how Trump had Rubio put out the statement saying we were not involved in the attack on the first night because he didn't know how it was gonna go. But the next morning when he was watching Fox News, they made it sound like it was such a strong and brilliant maneuver by Israel, and they kept complimenting what the genius of the Israeli military. That's why Bannon and Tucker and Marjorie Taylor Greene, et cetera, are telling you not to watch Fox News. That was a propaganda trick designed to appeal to one man, Donald Trump, and it totally worked. So Trump, according to the New York Times reporting from inside sources in the White House, then was like, oh yeah, it's strong and brilliant. I did that, it's me. And then he came out and started to take ownership over it. Like, oh, we control the skies and you never know what we're gonna do. And they didn't come to the negotiating table and that's why we did this. And today he's been all we have the best weapons and sources, and that's why we use intelligence against Iran and we knocked out their ability to defend themselves. So he's now bragging that we not only helped Israel defend themselves, but also went on the offense against Iran, because Fox News was like, oh, whoever did this is a genius and strong. And he's like, oh, okay, that's me. God, what a fool. So easy to manipulate. So now, look, you talked about the Iraq war. And at the time, yeah, that's true. Not a lot of Americans saw that coming, but they were lied to. So mainstream media, including Fox News is part of mainstream media, overwhelmingly told them to lie over and over and over again that Iraq had something to do with 9/11. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. Iraq was opposed to Al-Qaeda. Instead, they did this racist thing of like Muslim, same thing, right? No, two sets of Muslims fight against each other all the time. Al-Qaeda wanted to topple Saddam's government. Saddam was a bad guy, but he had absolutely nothing to do with Al-Qaeda other than killing them every once in a while, right? So 69% of Americans on the day we went to war in Iraq thought Saddam had personally attacked us on 9/11. That's part of how we got lied into that war. And then of course there was a story about, oh my God, Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. You know, we better act before the evidence comes in the form of a mushroom cloud over an American city. That's what they said to us, right? And now what are they saying about Iran? Iran has nuclear weapons, oh, they're about to weapons of mass destruction. And Fox News is printing that lie over and over and over again. Gigantic liars, right? Netanyahu, although to be fair, the one time he got caught was on Fox News, super ironically, I'll give Brett Baer, I always give credit where credit is due. And Baer asked him about it, and Netanyahu said, because Baer said, wait, US intelligence says they don't even have a nuclear weapons program. They stopped it back in 2003. They have never reconstituted it. The Grand Ayatollah is opposed to it. And then Netanyahu goes, yeah, I mean, they could have a weapon within a year. What happened to any week now, any day now, and I had to go, right? And of course, Netanyahu is a giant liar, and he's been saying that Iran was about to have a nuke since 1995. But there were shows on the air that were opposed to the Iraq war and did see through the lies. Two of them. One was Democracy Now!, national shows. There's local shows too, a couple of those, about a handful of those. But on a national level, there was Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman, who's a hero for that, and the Young Turks. So we've been around for 23 years, oldest show in internet history, first YouTube partner ever, and we were on the air. And Ben Mankiewicz and I were at the time going, no, don't go in, just like we are today. Don't go in, it's a trap. Don't go in, it has nothing to do with us. So some people saw it, but a lot of people got lied to in the war. So look, guys, we do see things from time to time before others do. I'll tell you why in a minute, but first I want to give you an example of what I saw apparently a little bit earlier than others. So I was on David Pakman's show. We'll run the full clip for you guys. And this was before inauguration, so before Trump even got into office. And here's what I told David Pakman. Look, this is where I think the rubber hits the road. And this is now, I'm really out on a limb, okay?
Okay.
I think his base is gonna turn on Israel. And so when he goes, yeah, no, I'm gonna give Israel another $30 billion and I'm gonna help them bomb more countries. At some point, MAGA's gonna go, no, that's enough, brother, man, that's enough. We said America first, not Israel first. And so I think they're gonna turn on that. And that's the right wings never turn on Israel. The left wing's really never really turned on Israel. No one's allowed to turn on Israel in America. But when you tell the right wing you're not allowed to do something, okay, let's see what happens. So again, we'll see. I get that I'm predicting unprecedented things, but I'm doing that based on what I'm actually seeing on the ground. And here we are. Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Steve Bannon, Jack Posobiec, Mike Cernovich, Candace Owens, list goes on and on. Charlie Kirk says, I love Israel, but I don't know if they should do this. Why does he say that? Because there's a giant uprising in his own audience. He did a poll of his audience. You wanna see how it turned out? Should the US government get involved in Israel's war against Iran? 10% yes, 90% no. 90% of Charlie Kirk's audience said no, do not go to war with Iran. Right now, Trump is going to war with Iran. So Trump is wrong. So guys, why did I think that was gonna happen when before inauguration, everyone on the left thought I was totally nuts to say that, right? Because I actually talked to them and I listened to them. And I know it's heresy to talk to the other side, heresy to listen to them and treat them as human beings, fellow citizens that we should have a conversation with. I know that there's a lot of disagreement and we think they do terrible things and they think we do terrible things. But as citizens, as fellow Americans, if we don't talk to one another and we don't listen to one another, the guys up top are always gonna win. They're always gonna get us to fight each other. So when I went on the right-wing shows and I went on independent shows, what I heard, not from just the hosts, but from their audience, was this giant clarion call for, we're actually anti-war. We're not lying, we're not kidding, we're anti-war. So they're not gonna agree with us on immigration. They're not gonna agree with us on a lot of things, but we agree on this. That's why I said it, and that's why it's true today.
Yeah, and speaking of giving credit where it's due, I just wanna say this real quick, Cenk. This is why I think you're great. This is what I appreciate about you. I don't know anyone else who really called out the reason that so many Americans supported the invasion of Iraq, and it was racism, right? I've always believed Americans just couldn't tell the difference between Saudis and Afghans and Iraqis, so they just supported the invasion of someone over in the Middle East as retribution for 9/11. But yeah, it's hard to remember what that time was like here in the US. But we had been hearing at that time that this is what needed to be done to protect ourselves from foreign threats. Before 9/11, most Americans didn't even realize that we had foreign enemies who hated us so much that they'd want to attack us directly on our own soil. So our fear was then weaponized to garner support for that war. Now we're seeing a very similar pattern playing out in Israel. Israelis feel like victims. They feel as though their neighbors are all against them. And they have been told, not just for years, but for decades, that Iran has nukes and Iran is on the brink of having nukes. And Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal because Benjamin Netanyahu wouldn't be able to use that as propaganda against his own people as long as that deal was in place. So the deal was pulled, it was never replaced with anything else. So now the narrative again is Iran has nukes or Iran is about to have nukes. Iran doesn't have any nukes, Israel has nukes, and I'll leave it there.
All right, last thing here, guys, unitedagainstwar.com, go sign the petition. Anybody who votes yes for this war, never gonna vote for them again. You vote against them in your own primaries, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. If we had this rule in place during the Iraq war and we had done a pledge large enough, then Hillary Clinton wouldn't have been the candidate in 2016. The whole world could have been different. Could have been Bernie Sanders, or could have avoided so many of these wars, right? Make a pledge, whether they're a Democrat or Republican, you're gonna vote for a different person in your own party in the primaries against the warmongers, unitedagainstwar.com. And then finally, look, to your point about racism, even Candace Owens, of all people, so she's against this war, and she had some good comments today, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's good, and I like that. And then later on, I'm like, oh no, don't say that, Jesus Christ, right? So there's still tons of things we disagree with, even within this issue, it happens, right? But she did say something powerful the other day that really did affect me. She said, I realized that mainstream media in this country convinced me to be racist against Muslims. They told me that Muslims were all terrorists and savages and all they believed in was violence. And now that I've woken up and I'm looking around, they've been the ones that have been attacked over and over and over again. The Muslims aren't occupying the Israelis. The Israelis are occupying Palestinians and Muslims. A lot of times Israel doesn't get attacked. Israel does the attacking, and we just saw it spectacularly with Iran right now. They did the attacking. They started the war. But American media, my entire life has been telling you, dark Muslims, they're terrorists. You should be really worried and afraid and fearful and hate and filled with hate towards Muslims. Why? Why do we hate Muslims? Where did that thought even get into the minds of Americans? And who planted that thought there? So, look, it doesn't matter what you think about race at the end of the day today. Today, what matters is America doesn't need to be in this war. It is not our war, and we should not go die there and spend trillions of dollars like we did in Iraq. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.